It looks like they stopped coming in now. Got about 19.
We'll get started so we can get everybody out on time. All right. So this is the Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Communities Strategy Roundtable for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025 at 2:00. So if you wish to address the committee during the public comment portion of the agenda, click on the reactions at the bottom center of your PC screen. Select the hand icon, click the icon to raise hand. Your digital hand will now be raised. Those addressing the committee must state their first and last name and agency for the record. Please turn on your microphone before speaking. To facilitate electronic access, no person shall speak until recognized by the chair. Okay, well, first of all, Happy New Year, everybody. So welcome to 2025. Can I get a roll call, please?
City of Clovis,
Here.
City of Coalinga, City of Firebaugh, City of Fowler.
Here.
Thank you. City of Fresno, City of Huron, City of Kerman, I think we have them on Zoom. City of Kingsburg, City of Mendota.
And Mendota's here.
Thank you. City of Orange Cove, City of Parlier, City of Reedley,
Here.
City of San Joaquin.
Here, we're here, or I'm here.
Thank you. City of Sanger, City of Selma,
Here.
thank you. County of Fresno,
Here.
San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution District,
Here.
Fresno LAFCO,
Here.
Caltrans District 6,
Here.
City of Fresno Fax,
Here.
City of Clovis Transit, Fresno County Rural Transit Agency,
Here.
PG&E, T-Mobile, Tranquility Resource Conservation District,
Here.
U.S. Green Building Council, Sequoia Riverland Trust,
Here.
Inspiration Transportation,
Present.
thank you, Fresno Cycling Club,
Present.
Public Health Advocate Dr. Anthony Molina,
Present.
Self-Help Enterprises, Fresno County EDC,
Here.
Fresno Chamber of Commerce, Westland Water District,
Here.
State Center Community College District.
Here.
Thank you. Measure C Citizens Oversight Committee. League of Women's Voters of Fresno. Public at Large Michelle Roman.
Here.
Public at Large Paul Marquez.
Here.
Public at Large Michelle Lopez.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we had a few more just walk in, so you guys want to state your names? Go ahead.
Laura Gomez with the USGBC.
Jill Gormley, City of Fresno.
Scott Miller, Fresno Chamber of Commerce.
Dave Peters, City of Kingsburg.
Was that Dave?
City, yeah,
Dave,
City of Kingsburg, Dave Peters. Okay. Where you guys are together. Gotcha. All right. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you all for attending. All right. Item number 2, new information discussion items. A, approval of meeting minutes for November 2024. Was there any member comments on this item? Any public comment? So I will open up for a motion. Anyone want to make a motion?
Yeah. Fresno State Transportation moves to approve the summary.
Great. Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second, Anthony Molina, Public Health.
Great. Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item B, the 2026 RTP project submittal. Paul?
Thank you, Chair. So this afternoon, thanks everybody for joining today. I'll be going over our call for project submittal for the 2026 RTP SCS. So briefly, the call for projects was opened on October 1st and ran through December 13th of last year. Over this period, we received over 2,800 projects between all of the local jurisdictions and transit agencies, as well as Caltrans. And for you, I'll be going through a summary of those projects to give you a high-level overview of the projects we received. So in terms of the number of projects we received by mode type, here's a description to give you some information. So 41% of the projects we received were road maintenance projects. 27% were bike and pedestrian projects, 16% were road operation projects, 10% were road capacity increasing projects, and 6% were transit projects, with another 0.5% being other, like EV infrastructure and other kind of miscellaneous project types. And again, total amount of projects we received was 2,809. In terms of those projects, what they equal to in the amount of funding being requested, so 6% transit projects in count turned into 30% of the total allocation towards transit projects, with another 23% for road operation projects, 23% for capacity increasing projects, 14% for maintenance projects, and 9% of the total cost for bike and pedestrian projects. And we received a request for over $10 billion in transportation infrastructure projects over the 23-year horizon period from 2026 to 2049. So this table gives you an outlook of exactly how many projects by mode type and the cost of each one of those mode type allocations. Again, these are just a request. These aren't, this isn't the scenario that we're going to be moving forward with or anything like that. This is just all the jurisdictions and transit operators sending in their requested projects and how much those projects would cost in total. So of the 2,809 projects, they equal $10.4 billion. You can see the breakdown on the counts and the costs to give you a sense of all the needs here in Fresno County. Now, when we look at the bi-jurisdictional breakdown, I know it's hard to read. We will send out this presentation after the meeting for you to take a look at, but essentially by going through each jurisdiction, you can see that the County of Fresno had 862 projects. The City of Clovis had 500, with the Clovis Transit Agency having an additional 32. City of Fresno had 414, with FACTS having an additional 88. Fresno County Rural Transit Agency had 10 projects. And then the jurisdictions you can see throughout the county, anywhere from about 22 projects all the way up to about 90 projects. So a lot of projects. We're very happy with the amount of input we received from all the jurisdictions and the transit operators. And so this is your 2026 project submittal. And so with this, kind of the next steps here at with the staff, we're going to be reviewing all the projects to make sure that the jurisdictions correctly filled out all the different categories, including the project scoring, all the mapping data that we need in order to also properly score these projects. And then once we go through that kind of a review of the projects, we will then start our project development, our scenario development, where we'll start getting these projects into different scenarios, which will then be modeled, and we'll be able to do some analysis on the benefits of these projects through the scenarios. So we have about another month of internal review here with the staff to go through and make sure we have all the information we need from the local jurisdictions and our transit operators. Once that's completed, we'll be working through our various subcommittees as well, the SCS subcommittee being the primary subcommittee that will be reviewing the scenario development process. And so just want to lay out kind of what the next steps are with this call for projects listing. We will need to do some review of the projects to make sure we have all the information we need. With that, that's really all this item is to go through these projects and lay out kind of the next steps. Happy to take any questions of the committee.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead.
Yes, two questions. First, I see that the request totaled 10.4 billion. I refreshed my memory. What is the anticipated revenues coming in during this time frame?
So we anticipate it'll be about $6.5 billion at this point, but that's not finalized. We're still working through our revenue projections, but we anticipate around $6.5 billion.
So
will be
you're
available.
going to end up about some 4 billion short.
Yes.
Okay, very good, thanks. And number two is in our next steps. Number two is develop a digital map to display all proposed projects. That digital map, and you said that may be available in about a month's time frame. Will that be on your website?
Yes, that'll be available on our website.
Website,
Mhm.
very good. And that was basically just display where all these projects are.
Yep.
And they'll be coded in some way that I could pull up the projects by mode.
Yeah, that's what we anticipate. Go ahead.
We're able to add the filters on the map to help you to select by jurisdiction and by the project category. And feel free to let us know if you need any function on that. We can try to add this on the online map.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a clarification question. At what stage are these projects? Are those implementation projects or planning projects, or do they include both?
I think for the most part, I'd have to take a look to see if there's any planning projects in there, but these are all implementation projects, construction projects that would be built physically in the network.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody online?
Question?
Just to clarify on that last question, they could also be capital acquisitions, right?
Sure, yeah, they
In
could
the-
also be vehicle acquisition for
Right.
like a bus network, buses and things like that.
But generally, no planning processes.
No.
Funded with that.
Question. Tony Molina, Public Health. So, and then the scoring for these projects, is that in process, or how's that happen?
So yeah, so part of the process was there's two steps to the scoring process. The scoring criteria was approved last August by a separate subcommittee that just focused technically on the scoring criteria. So part of that is a process that the jurisdiction inputs information and a score is derived from that information they put in. The second half of the process is with the location information that they give. So geocoding is typically what it's called in the modeling realm. So this geocoded data will get then inputted into a map. And based on where the location of that project is, additional scores will be given to that project.
Okay. Any public comment on this one, this item? Okay. Seeing none, this was informational only, so we will move on to item C, environmental justice analysis measures updates. Jen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I will just discuss the updated measure for the environmental justice analysis in our regional translation plan. So to start, let's revisit the purpose of the conducting environmental justice analysis. As a federally designated metropolitan planning organization, Fresno COG is required to comply with federal and state regulations. This includes adherence to the Title VI and other environmental justice principle, policies, and regulations. The environmental justice and the equity analysis ensure that our work align with these guidelines. Specifically, it helps us assess whether the RTPSS provides equitable benefits to low-income and minority communities. It also examines whether the plan's transition investments result in any disproportionate negative impacts on this population. Where negative impacts are identified, this analysis aims to minimize them. So the regional transition plan includes a dedicated environmental justice chapter. This chapter provides demographic data for the region, outlines the EJ analysis methodology, and also presents the results. For reference, on the right of the screen is a screenshot from our previous EJ chapter. So in November, we presented the proposed EJ analysis measure updates to the Environmental Justice Subcommittee and received valuable feedbacks. Based on their suggestion, additional measures were incorporated and the updated measures were approved this January. So in the RTP EJ chapter, it includes 8 measures categorized under 3 main areas. The first is a transportation performance measure, and second is a financial investment measures, and the third is quality of life measures. So we plan to remain all the existing measures. However, a significant change this time is that we will conduct 3 separate analyses instead of simply comparing EJ and non-EJ area. So this analysis will include the first is for the equity priority community, which are the communities with significant concentration of underserved population, such as low-income household and people of color, accounting about 1/3 of the county total population. And the second is for the disadvantaged community, which were defined by the federal or the state criteria. The third one will be a county-wide analysis to evaluate the impact across the entire county. So the following pages highlights proposed new measures and maps to be added to this analysis. For the access to job and services, we propose to add a measure of AM peak travel time for job-related trips to sufficiently reflect the commute access, complementing to the existing measure for all-purpose access. The second is to include a new information map showing the travel time from all traffic analysis zone called TAZ to downtown Fresno. This will illustrate changes in the multimodal access to key urban infrastructures such as the rail stations, the county agencies, and intercity bus services. For the transit productivities, we propose to add a measure of % of population within a quarter-mile walking distance of frequent transit, and also add a measure for the retails and health care accessible within a 30 minutes transit trip. For active transportation projects, we propose to add a measure of lane mile of bicycle and pedestrian projects within a quarter mile to transit stops to highlight the improvement in bike and ped access to the public transportation. And for the distribution of investment by mode, we provided a table showing the estimated cost of the RTP project by mode. Based on the EJ subcommittee's recommendation, we will add 2 additional tables to break down this data for Fresno Clovis metropolitan area and the rest of the county. And this round, we propose to introduce a new indicator summarizing the planned safety project on the high injury network that we will use a Caltrans equity index. It's also called EQI crash exposure data to define. We will provide a table summarizing this safety improvement project. And for the pollution exposure, we propose to update the criteria for this measure. First is to use Caltrans equity index transportation exposure data to define the traffic related exposure. And second is to expand the buffer zone for the larger facility polluters, superfunds, and brownfield sites from the 500 feet to 1 mile. And we also propose to add a new indicator of peak hour emission reduction in a high transportation exposure area to quantify the emission reduction resulting from the RTP project in heavily polluted area. And this concludes my presentation. It's an action item. Staff and the EJ subcommittee recommend the RTP Roundtable approve this measure updates for the environmental justice analysis in the 2026 RTP.
Great, thank you. Any member comments? Any comments from the public? All right, so I'll be open to a motion to approve.
This is Matthew Gillian with Inspiration Transportation. I would motion to approve these proposed changes.
Right, thank you, Matthew. I need a second.
Second from Parlier, Alma Beltran.
Okay, thank you. And so I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, next up, item D, the Fresno County Rural Transit Agency project updates. Mr. Moses Stites.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Moses Stites, General Manager, Fresno County Rural Transit Agency. It's my pleasure to present to you a couple of projects that FCRTA has been working on over the past few years. And most recently, we just completed the installation of 12 bus shelters in rural Fresno County. It may not seem like a big endeavor for a lot of folks, especially the urban folks, but for the rural communities, because we have 13 incorporated cities that we serve and approximately 39 unincorporated communities, you have to take it in that context. And it's really a tribute because Caltrans afforded us funding for the bus shelters through the Clean California grant, approximately $200,000. And when you equate and break it down, that $200,000 to those 12 locations, you have to take into account, one, are the bus shelters available? There's still a supply chain issue, as many of you know that are in the industry or related industries. Are those bus shelters ADA approved? Will they be accepted by the municipalities and the local jurisdictions that oversee the permitting in accordance with ADA and public streets and roads compliances? The only caveat that Caltrans put on this project was the fact that none of the bus shelters could be on state right-of-way, none of the state routes. They had to be on local jurisdictions, which was fine because we have other locations for bus stops at the in the state right-of-way, State Route 33, State Route 180, State Route 269, all conventional highways, obviously. And Caltrans is pretty good about permitting our installation of the bus shelters. As a matter of fact, I got to give kudos to Caltrans because they're one of the few jurisdictions, mainly one, that can give us an encroachment permit in 24 hours. Okay? So if you want to know the secret, you can contact me later and I'll tell you that secret. But in reality, it's quite an undertaking because it makes a difference in these communities. The bus shelters are installed on locations where there's fixed routes. We did have a few challenges. And Denise, if you could put up the slide presentation, please. And I'm going to try to keep this brief, so bear with me. It's really important to understand these jurisdictions. Where they at? Here we go. And some of you will recognize these cities. Some of you actually participated in it. This is a location in Orange Cove. These are two bus shelters. They're powder coated. They're heavy-duty structures. We had one in Kerman that was wiped out by a DUI driver, and I think it totaled out their Cadillac SUV. The only thing that was left was the bench. Luckily, there was nobody there. But also what we do too in working with our local jurisdiction, because we truly believe in the effort of collaboration with our local partners, not just word-wise, but we put their city logos on the cylinders on those bus shelter. It's a 12-inch cylinder there at the top. And so we go to our sign maker and we say, you know, let's put in the logo for them because we want to vest with them. And we've had really good luck, knock on wood, very little, if no graffiti or vandalism to these bus shelters, which is a good thing. And keep in mind in these rural communities, you still have that extensive extreme heat temperatures. So it's good to stand underneath them. I know when Mayor Roman was in Kingsburg, she would comment about the bus shelter and the lighting that would come on after dusk because there are solar panels on top of these bus shelters as well. And they fare fairly well too in the extreme heat and weather. But this is Orange Cove, and as you can see, it meets the ADA requirements there. The residents are pleased with it, our passengers and so forth. We're going to eventually put in bike racks and some other amenities there as well. Next slide, please. Parlier. I should have provided the before pictures of these locations. Picture, if you will, a wooden bus shelter that kind of looked like something out of your backyard. And if you sat down, you most definitely would get splinters, okay? And you may not want to sit down on that bench. So anyway, they were replaced. And again, you know, oftentimes the one on the left there, we had to add concrete pad. These bus shelters do require structural integrity and grounding. There's a lot to these. It's not just a matter of, oh, let's go ahead and put in a bus shelter and they're made to order. It probably took 8-9 months to order these from Tolar Manufacturing, and they're off of the CalAct procurement list, which is approved by Caltrans and FTA, which makes it very convenient, especially when you're looking at time duration. Keep in mind that we had 12 months to essentially start the project and deliver the project and order the bus shelters. These did not come assembled. It's not like your little, you know, Lego set that you put together. It takes forklifts. It takes several individuals to put these together, probably over a couple of days. So it's not very easy. Next slide, please. Carruthers is an unincorporated community. The two previous ones you saw are incorporated. Carruthers, this is in front of a market. We have a fixed route bus stop here. We've never had a bus shelter here. So this was really quite an accomplishment. And working with Fresno County, they were able to process our permit, and we paid our fees. And we'll talk about that later. They reviewed our engineering drawings, and we we put in this bus shelter here. So this is quite a feat, and I've often stated to unincorporated communities and advocates, if you've got curb, gutter, and sidewalk, FCRTA will come in and put a bus shelter for you. That's not a problem. We're very accommodating. Unlike trying to obtain permits and paying fees, but again, you'll hear more about that later, or maybe you won't, because you already know that. Next slide, please. Reedley was exceptional. They were very accommodating. We had several challenges here. The one on the left, well, both of these bus shelters here are in the city. The one on the right is adjacent to Reedley College, and we originally planned for the college to get a bus shelter, but because they're a state agency, no offense, Christopher, but it's a whole different process for the state of California. And so we graciously excused ourselves and modified the grant to not put a bus shelter on state property, and went to the city of Reedley, and they were very accommodating, and we were able to put it in an adjacent sidewalk. And then later, Public Works was able to stripe that location there in front because a lot of the students were parking there, and we couldn't, the bus could not stop there safely. So that was another collaborative partnership. And I want to share these with you because it's very important on collaboration. And these projects, the list that Paul went over with you, those are great projects, but unless you get collaboration and you get partnerships with your local entities, some of these projects may not come to fruition. They're just going to be a wish list. You may get the funding for it, but if you don't get the cooperation and expedited reviews and assistance along the way, you might as well hang up some of those projects. And I'm just, stating you some experience and some facts, which some of you know. So keep that in mind as you're proposing these projects and also applying for grants in the delivery of the projects. Next slide, please. Oh, Carruthers already, huh? Reedley? Here we go. Selma got 3. They're on Whitson Avenue. That's a primary route because we have several fixed routes that go through Selma. We have the southeast corridor that starts in the city of Kingsburg that comes into Fresno via Selma, Fowler into Fresno. And then we also have a college route that starts in Kingsburg, goes through Selma, Fowler, and then on to Parlier and to Reedley College. And that route, I can honestly say that the majority of the funding on that is through Measure C. And if it were not for Measure C, we would not be able to do that route. And I believe Mayor Roman was there in Kingsburg when we started that route. And just to give you the importance of these fixed routes, especially that Reedley College route, not to minimize the other routes, but we had actual accounts of students riding their bicycle from Selma to Reedley College. We had other individuals hitching a ride and whatever they were doing, trying to get to the college. So we eventually started that route. And it was important to put in these 3 bus shelters to the city of Selma, even though we had to go through the permitting and processing fees and everything else on that. That's fine. But we ended up doing that. And just to give you an idea, the approximate cost on these bus shelters and the installation and everything that goes along with it is about just a little under $20,000. Not to mention the time that Janelle Del Campo, project manager, oversees it, and what little time that I put into it. It takes quite a bit just to put in these bus shelters. And we're not talking about one city. Again, we're talking about 12 bus shelters and probably 8 or 10 of these incorporated cities and unincorporated communities. Next slide, please. And as you can see that the visible solar on top of those too. And they're easy to maintain. If there ever is graffiti, and again, I don't ever recall any graffiti on any of these bus shelters. And we probably have, with the installation of these 12, another 50, a total of 50 out in the rural areas. And keep in mind, Fresno County is exceptional only because people have a vision and they follow through on it. And other counties, Caltrans has told us, the city of Arvin is trying to put in one bus shelter in a rural community. They've been trying to do that for 2 years unsuccessfully. FCRTA offered, we'll buy the bus shelter, we'll go down there and install it. Just tell us where is it? As long as they have curb, gutter, and sidewalk, we will put it in. And obviously we'll go to the locals, go through the review process, go through the permitting process, and pay the fees. Okay? We did one in Mendota because there was an unincorporated community, Riverdale, that the extended review process was a little lengthy for us, even though it was a replacement. City of Mendota stepped up and said, we'll take it, not a problem. Our contractor went in, poured the pad, and put in this bus shelter. Reason this is critical is because this fits into their general plan with respect to a new community center that they're building at this location adjacent to affordable housing. So there is some connectivity here. It all connects, especially in rural areas. Next slide, please. And then the city of Coalinga, we put one there too. And you can see the cutout there too for on all these bus shelters with a bench. There's a location there for wheelchair and any mobility devices as well. Next slide, please. And that concludes the bus shelter presentation. I know it was lengthy, but it's an important project for FCRTA, and I hope it's an important project for you just to understand the process. And there's got to be integrity in the process at all levels. And I can't stress enough the collaborative effort that needs to take place. And if you are a member of a local jurisdiction municipality, go back and review your collaborative efforts with your partners and the reviewing process, the permitting process, the fee process, and all that. There are exemptions, there are waivers, there are processes that you can implement just to move the process along if you truly believe in the collaborative process. With that, I'll open this up before I get into the maintenance facility, and I'll cut the maintenance facility short. I won't belabor the issue.
Thank you, Moses. And I'll say on behalf of the city of Kingsburg, it's been a great partnership, the FCRTA, and how important it's been. And that fixed route from Kingsburg to Reedley for the college, I mean, we get asked all the time about from our local students, you know, how can I get on the bus? What time does the routes go? And so I know it's been really popular. So thank you for that. Is there any comments on this first part of the presentation? Yes, go ahead.
Thanks for the presentation, Moses. Just out of curiosity, you had one unincorporated community that you had a shelter, Carruthers. As far as the players that were involved, did you work with the Community Services District? Did you work with the county of Fresno on that one? You know, and you mentioned also that you had to pull out of another unincorporated community because of the, you know, because of the time it took to get whatever you need to get done. Maybe it was permits or something else.
Well, to start with one of your many questions, Paul, must be a former Caltrans employee, right?
Yeah, I spent a
I
little
used to
time
work
there.
with Paul, but anyway, you know, we did work with some of the community members out there. Over the years, we've gone through the unmet transit needs process annually. We've reviewed previous RTP comments. So we've taken these comments to heart, and we know what the issues out there better than anybody. And so when we have an opportunity to apply for funding like we did with the Clean California grant, we had an idea of some of these locations that needed these improvements. So we did work you know, with some of the community members out there who noted these during, and also passengers, because this Carruthers was is a stop rather, fixed route stop. We try to work in another one, the community of Riverdale, to replace the bus bench. But because the county had an ongoing project, they wanted additional engineered plans and some other things that we were unable to provide based on the time frame of delivering this grant. So there are sunset clauses in some of these grants, and if you don't meet them, you void the entire $200,000. So for us, it was a better opportunity to transfer that bus shelter in Riverdale, which now still has a bench, by the way, and we moved that one to the city of Mendota. And then for the college, like I mentioned, Reedley College, again, process, that process would have undertaken us to go to the state architect's review and also pay fees, and it was just a long, lengthy process. And I've mentioned this to Dr. Carol Goldsmith, the chancellor of Reedley, of the community colleges, also President Buckley of Reedley College. So people are aware of it. And, you know, I'm hoping that they do something about it. And all of you here that are in that capacity as well, go back and try to make a difference, try to make it easier. When somebody comes in with a project and it's funded and it's not costing you anything, open your arms and be a good partner. Okay, I can't stress that enough. And you're going to hear more of that too as well. Otherwise, these projects are going to stall. And you could lose funding. Don't lose that opportunity. But we'll continue to do that. And when we go out and have outreach meetings, we take these comments. We may not act on it right away. And some of these comments for Carruthers and Riverdale might have come in 3-4 years ago. Okay, the bus shelters in Selma, they're relative to when Mayor Roman was there in Kingsburg, and we started that route how many years ago? Okay, so that sometimes they do take a little bit of time. We just have to be patient, and hopefully it's within our lifetime. Does that answer your questions, Paul?
Yeah, it sure does. You know, and I think bus shelters are great, especially for transit riders, because I've, you know, been there where where there's no place to sit, no shade, and it you know, it's not good. It doesn't.
Yeah, thank you. And also too, I can tell you that Fresno County probably has the most bus shelters in any county in the state of California. And that's attributed to, again, our efforts and Janelle Del Campo leading our planning effort and grants, and also the fact of Measure C helping out with funding a lot of our oversight and matching funds as well. So we're able to do that. Again, the numbers speak for themselves, but the residents are the ones that benefit from it.
Yes, go ahead.
Tony Molina, thank you, Moses. Great presentation. I'm curious, as far as, is there future plans for additional shelters, or what's the future of bus shelters?
You know, we're always looking for infrastructure improvements, capital improvements. And again, the main requirement is the fact that as long as we have curb, gutter, and sidewalk, we're able to put that in, and it's a requirement. So we're always looking for new opportunities. We've even partnered with the city of Fresno in some of the locations here, because our buses come into Fresno. So we've actually put in bus shelters. I recall putting one in front of the old Greyhound station. We took it out, we relocated it over to the Amtrak station. The bus shelter that you see there on Van Ness, we installed that one. And that was an interesting one, because you have to be real careful, because some of the tunnels from Chinatown still go underneath downtown Fresno. So we had to really be real careful about some of that, the installations here in Fresno. But we're continuing those efforts, and we'll work with the city of Clovis as well to do that. We welcome any partnership, excluding the fees and the extensive review processes.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, you brought up partnership and collaboration a couple of times. And as we are working on the sustainable communities strategy, I was wondering if COG has considered adding this to this, or if there's a way of adding this collaboration piece to any of those upcoming plans, because obviously it's a really big issue. And as we can see with climate change, it's moving really fast. So speedy implementation of projects would probably have an advantage for our region. So I'm just wondering if there might be some way that this can be addressed in a way that it really provides for a positive outcome for everybody and kind of lays down some ground rules that really help clarify and maybe make the region also more attractive for funding opportunities or funders.
Sure, yeah, I can address that. So a lot of the projects that are in the RTP-SES are going to be collaborative efforts in that they'll need not only local sources of funding, but also state and federal sources of funding. So the jurisdictions that are listed and the project amounts that are estimated, those are estimates at this time, and the anticipation is that many of those projects will receive several different funding sources, whether it's local Measure C dollars, state. There's a lot of different state and federal funds for not only transit but other types of projects. So yeah, that is something that we build into the RTP process, is a revenue estimate that includes several dozens of funding sources across local, state, and federal programs. So that is incorporated into the RTP.
But I think, Laura, your point is well taken, and I think I did mention it a couple of times. I won't mention it again. I think everybody got the message. But you really need to take that into consideration, because right now I'm working on a TIRCP project in Chinatown, and I'm ready to send back $6.7 million because of not able to obtain property in that area. And, you know, it would be a shame to the county to do that. And again, it's the process, it's, you know, jurisdictional things, it's the bureaucracy. And these are the things that you're going to have a hard time facing those decisions, but they have to be made. And there are exceptions. There's overriding considerations. There's environmental clauses under CEQA and NEPA that can be done. So you need to consider that as you're going forward to move these projects. If not, they're going to stall for lack of moving them forward. So consider that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the comments and the clarification. And just as Moses indicated, really looking at the process would be my recommendation. And if this is not possible within this funding, it might be a good project to look at, really to speed up those processes and reduce silos and increase collaboration, which we all know is kind of like the secret of going forward. And if we talk about efficiency, I think our federal elections really have shown us that people really want to have efficient, clear solutions. And I think this would be a really good project to get everybody on a table together to figure out things. And I know politically that's probably very difficult, but it would be a good project to attempt to really like reduce the barriers to get funding in our region. Thank you.
Any other comments? Any comments from the public? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Do you want to continue, sir, with your
Yes, and
presentation?
I'll try to make this short. Sorry to take up most of your time here, but the next presentation is on the FCRTA maintenance facility in the city of Selma, and I'm going to let you watch this video. This is a drone video taken a couple of months ago. We're at about 75, 80% complete, and then I'll just fill in the blanks toward the end if you have any questions. Denise, please. Thank you. I'll just wrap it up with this unless you have some questions, but this is now a 19 to $20 million facility. Start off as about a $14.2 million facility. The funding came from FTA 5339 capital grants of about $7 million, $10 million again of Measure C. I can't state that enough, more so than the permitting and the review process. We wanted to replicate this project elsewhere with mobility hubs and resiliency solar locations, excluding the building. So all the solar panels with the bus ports, carports, those battery backup systems, that electrical system that's state of the art, that can go island mode, which means that if the grid is down or you don't have a connection to the PG&E, those batteries integrated with the solar can operate your charging and also provide energy for your building. There is one location right now, Lions Transportation, located at 250 South Academy in Sanger, and they're currently on island mode. It's a 10,000 square foot building. 7.5 acres. They currently have solar, a gas generator, and one battery backup, and they're completely off the grid. They're not paying any PG&E bills. And the reason they're off the grid, their island mode, is because PG&E has 24-month delay on connecting them to the grid. Quite honestly, they may not even connect to the grid because they're operating independent. They have a trucking facility there and air conditioning, heating, lighting, everything. They don't have chargers, but they're able to operate that way. And the whole idea and concept is sustainability and being independent of the grid in the event that you need it, and also based on the rates. So this maintenance facility is really way ahead of its time, and we're going to offer tours for you. We should be done hopefully by April. We're supposed to get PG&E connection this next week. Keep your fingers crossed. We broke ground in April of 2023. So this April will be 2 years since we broke ground. And some of you are aware of these construction projects, but again, just be aware of some of these collaborative efforts. And again, I can't say enough about Measure C, because without that $10 million that we had available in Measure C funding, we wouldn't have been able to do this project. And we're hoping to do several of these other projects, excluding the buildings, but the main concept of the solar, battery backup, and software with that. So if you have any questions, I try to be brief. I know there's a lot there, but my apologies.
No, it's fantastic. No apologies necessary. It's fantastic.
We have two questions online.
Excuse me?
We have two questions online.
Okay. So Matthew, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you, Moses. You said 19 for the total project, I think 19 million. How much of that was land acquisition?
The land acquisition, it was approximately $800,000 to $900,000. 3 parcels that compose 7.5 acres. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And there was another one? Yes, Lorena.
Hi, my name's Lorena Mendibles. Hello, everybody. Hi, Moses. No, I just wanted to reiterate just a great job with the, the maintenance station and, all the grants that have been, been worked on and awarded to Fresno County Rural Transit Agency. We hope to visit the maintenance station along with headquarters. There's been a strong interest from our headquarters staff that they want to come and visit the transit maintenance station. So we look forward to that, and just, great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorena.
Any other questions? Yes.
Tony Molina, Public Health. In light of the Moss Landing battery fire this last week, and I was in Monterey, and while it was going on, is there a battery fire suppression technology on this unit here?
Not yet. We have those two batteries that are outside, and we've had the fire department look at them, and they're in an area there that in the event that something does happen, they're far away from the buildings and everything else that it doesn't cause any problems. It meets code. We do have the building that is geared for CNG gas, because we do work on CNG vehicles as well. But the battery situation, it's like when the batteries catch fire on the freeway, you know, those things happen, and we just hope that it doesn't. But we're going to be looking into some of the additional safety factors in the event that something like that does occur. Mhm.
Any other questions? Yes.
No question, but a comment. Thank you so much, Moses. This is a great project. Thank you to Measure C for half of the funding, so crucial for the success of this project. You're saying it's ahead of its time. I would say that projects like these are long overdue, and we need more of them. I recently coached a girls soccer team, sixth grade, and we just had a tournament last weekend, and each game I had one of the girls have an asthma attack. And I've been working in this field for a long time, but I was really shocked by seeing that these 11-year-olds where you have a soccer team, pretty athletic kids, and at least half of them have asthma. So all of them had to make sure to have their inhalers. And I think that should show us how important these projects are that increase air quality, reduce air pollution, and reduce climate pollution. And I hope that there's more funding and more projects. I see it, and we hear it's a complicated process, but I hope that a lot of the other jurisdictions and agencies will take on projects like that to create better, more sustainable, and more healthy communities for us all. Thank you so much for the effort and for pushing this through, and for being one of the innovators on this.
Thank you, Laura. Well, I'm going to leave you with this last comment. When we were applying for a permit with our utility company, I won't mention the innocent parties, but when they did the load assessment for the site, it was based on the number of chargers that we had on site, and it's 32 chargers. They did not take into account the solar, the battery backup, the gas generator, any of those other sustainable measures that we had. And, you know, this is again part of that process. And the calculations for the solar, because we used our ponding basin for solar as well to energize the building. And then the panels on the bus ports energize the chargers. So really you have two systems there. But the bottom line is that we're going to generate 120% energy needed for the building. We're going to be putting back 20% or more back in the grid. The utility company does not take that into account, nor do they care. All they want to know is what is the load that you're going to pull from your facility. So when we're running net zero there, that it's a loss leader for the utility company. So they assess your fees and everything else based on just the load that you're going to be extrapolating from the grid, excluding any of those sustainable measures that you're mitigating and adding to the sustainability of the area. So just keep that in mind as you're working through these projects, okay? And Janelle Del Campo's ready to do another 10 of these, okay?
That's right.
Thank you very much. Good seeing you again, Mayor.
Good to see you. Thank you
Care.
very much. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, next up is the 2026 Measure C Renewal Committee Expression of Interest. Robert Phipps.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So this is just an update on Measure C generally, and specifically notification that we have begun soliciting expressions of interest from all of our stakeholders and the public generally for the next Measure C Renewal Committee. The form, we're hoping to have those back by January 31st, casting a very wide net to bring in as many stakeholders as we possibly can. The form indicates the stakeholder groups that have been kind of arrived at by our policy board, vetted, I should say, by our policy board. And this committee, which is envisioned at least to begin with as a single committee, but could break out into multiple subcommittees at its discretion, would be responsible for developing the draft and then eventually the final expenditure plan for the proposed 2026 Measure C renewal. So the members would be expected to engage in a collaborative participatory process, contributing their expertise and perspectives as technicians, whatever perspective they bring to the table, as well as Fresno County taxpayers. And this process is expected to last at the very least over the next 12 to 18 months to help ensure that the renewal plan reflects the community's needs and priorities for improvements throughout the region. The expectation is that we will have monthly meetings for up to 2 hours, with the first meeting that would be expected to last probably a half a day. So it is a significant time commitment. We do recognize that. And so again, hoping that you will help us by taking one of the forms or filling it out online. We do have a Measure C hub on the Fresno COG Getting Involved page under our agenda info page. And while FCTA also is working on revamping its website, but the expression of interest form can also be found on that web page as well. So all meetings that we're anticipating of this committee would be hybrid, as is the RTP Roundtable, and in fact, very much based, the whole premise of the committee is based on the RTP Roundtable to encourage open public meetings and expression. We would have recordings available following each meeting, available on our information hub and on Fresno COG's YouTube channel. So that's kind of the latest. In other news, just to bring you up to date, and Terry Ogle with FCTA is here as well if there are questions. You may or may not know that back in October, the Fresno COG Policy Board gave authorization to this staff, and which FCTA followed along in December, for a $1.75 million cooperative agreement that would be used on 4 different contracts related to the Measure C renewal: a program manager, a committee meeting facilitator, a public outreach firm, and a polling survey firm. So beginning in November, Fresno COG staff, who are taking the lead this time in this go-around as opposed to the 2022 effort, we solicited the RFPs in November and received the responses in December, and are poised this month to award 4 contracts. We received proposals from 8 different firms in December, some of which proposed on multiple of the contracts. We had 5 proposals alone on the facilitator contracts, but some of those were in combination with the project manager or with the public outreach as well. And so we selected ultimately a scoring committee that included 3 city managers, a public works director, a member of the Measure C Citizens Oversight Committee, and then members of the FCTA and Fresno COG staff, along with 1 city mayor, selected DKS and Provost Pritchard for the facilitator, DKS, Provost Pritchard, LSA, and FM3 for the program manager's role, Tripepe Smith for the public outreach contract, and then FM3 Research for the public serving and polling. So the way that we envision this working is the public facilitator, program manager, both DKS, will be activated first. The facilitator position in particular of interest to our stakeholders is we've had the conversations throughout the region to get that going, to get the committee up and running, and then followed very, very closely by the outreach firm. All of these firms have, to some degree, worked together before. So they do all know one another, are familiar with one another throughout the state. DKS in particular has a lot of experience within the San Joaquin Valley and a lot of experience on sales tax measures in particular. So that's kind of the update. We anticipate the renewal committee to kick off sometime we're hoping mid to late March, somewhere in there. The contracts probably will not we will not have the consultants on board until about the beginning of February. And so we're hoping to get committee members again through these expression of interest forms, and then also through some direct solicitation. There is a position for each of our jurisdictions, one spot on the committee for each of our jurisdictions. And we're still working through details about the other stakeholders that we'd have to vet if we receive multiple expressions of interest from different stakeholder groups. And so we are working on a process to determine that. We expect the facilitator to help us develop that. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any comment from members? Any online?
Aaron.
Aaron? Okay, go ahead.
I'm assuming that agencies that get Measure C funds wouldn't be represented on this committee, or am I wrong?
No, hi, Aaron. No, each of the 16 jurisdictions will have one representative.
Okay, okay. So it'll be the jurisdictions with the community at large.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
On the subject, there has been so much opposition from community groups. What are you doing to reach out to these groups to ensure that they are part of the process and kind of find a solution together?
So we did solicit input on with regard to not specifically with the RFPs, not in terms of developing the RFPs, but in terms of which consultants we wanted to solicit. We did reach out to some of those groups about, who would you like us to see, to send this to? Who would you like to see propose? So there was some outreach going on there. We have met with them on more than one occasion. So there was some consultation involved in that process. And then there is, again, with the expression of interest form, we are taking all comers in terms of who wants to apply for the position. And I use that term loosely, because it's an expression of interest form that, again, we would have to vet if we get too many, applicants from one particular type of stakeholder group. And again, the stakeholders are listed on the form, such interests as emergency services, agriculture, trucking, but also environmental justice, social justice, these types of organizations. We've tried to be as transparent and inclusive as we can think to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
What would be the optimum size of the committee?
We envision it as being, again, probably in the range of 35 to 45, but there's a caveat there, which is that, and it'll be another major difference that we see between 2022 and today is that the committee will largely be self-directed. It's not going to be staff-directed.
And so there's the potential, because that is a large committee, right? It's going to be tough to wrangle that many people should it grow to that size. And so we do see the potential for it to decide on its own to split, to form subcommittees or, to split up. It may be by mode. There may be, any number of ways in which that occurs. So that's kind of decision is yet to come.
And then now of curiosity, I know there's at least 2 or 3 who were involved way back, where Measure C failed like in 2004. And then it succeeded in 2006.
Correct.
And what that process was as a result of why it did not pass and all the work and evaluation that went into it and some of the mediation that occurred. I don't know how best to define it, but I was part of that process. Nick, you were as well. And there may be others here. And so the question is, it failed in 2022. What will these consultants do to try to garner what was working or wasn't working, what the issues were? And is that part of their findings that they may present to this committee?
It certainly could be. I mean, again, I think that in terms of, the underlying, the through line of what I'm hearing in your question, and if I'm interpreting it correctly, is what's different, what's going to change. And we do get that question a lot. And one of them is that, again, this committee is going to dictate to the staffs what kind of information it wants. So that could be an element. The point that you're making is to determine what caused the failure the last time. We know statistically, in terms of from a voter standpoint, we already know the answer to that question. But in terms of if you're looking at it more from a qualitative standpoint, collaboration in terms of where did collaboration fail, those kinds of issues, then that could certainly be a path that the committee could pursue if it wants to use the time to do it that way. We are under a limited time frame, so that will have to be taken into consideration, of course. But another major difference between 2022 and today is the fact that we are going to be starting out of the gate with a facilitator for the committee, and a facilitator who has a lot of experience specifically with these particular types of measures. And when I say particular, I mean transportation sales tax measures. And so that, we did not have a facilitator. We don't at this time, unless the committee itself wants to go this route, we do not at this time envision like a chair, co-chair, or vice chair for this committee. It would be the facilitator. There would not necessarily be any elected positions within the committee, but we would have a facilitator from the onset, someone who is trained, who has a lot of experience in facilitation. And so, those are probably some of the biggest difference out of the gate. On the public outreach side, we're anticipating about 40 different public workshops and meetings. Another major difference is that we do not anticipate seeing the surveying and polling occur ahead of the workshops the way that we saw it the last time. That will probably take place sometime, after the workshops have already begun. Probably not wait until the end of them. That would be too late. But it's probably somewhere in the middle when at least some of the public input from the workshops has come in, has begun to trickle into the committee. So all of this information, as it's coming, or as it's occurring out in the field, would be coming to the committee for consideration.
So, I'm just trying to look into the future a little bit and get a better understanding because you've made your selections and how this may be approached. So you have 35 and there's consensus associated with that. I'm putting out an assumption, and it'd be balanced and co-equal, and the facilitator would manage that process. And I think you said in the absence of a chair and co-chair as well. So it's like a convening of all the various stakeholders and the facilitators there to assure that it's a level playing field. So City of Fresno would have a vote and some, again, I'm just going to put it out there, some community, a CBO, community-based organization, as their representative. And their job is, just like the City of Fresno, is to go back and work with their constituents in respect to assuring that their voice is being heard and their interests are being acknowledged. And then that goes to the full 35 and a determination is made. And, you know, I'm not gonna use a specific, but there's gonna be these projects and going through that process of justification and the equity standards associated with it as well. And no geographical bias in some respects within the county. In other words, where there's no skewing or there may be some weighting, but that the weighting is done by consensus. I'm just laying that out there to kind of get a sense for those of us who did this 20 years ago and what that process was like at that time. Mm-hmm. Because you already went out to the public taxpayer and it failed, and then Laura indicated some concern. I didn't quite understand that, but it sounded like within CBOs and EJ organizations, and they may have mounted a campaign. I don't know, because I was involved with the Creek Fire aftermath at that time, so I was not very involved for the first attempt.
Yeah, so yes, there was organized opposition in the 2022 effort. Correct. That is correct. And fundamentally, I would say fundamentally what you described, the way that you've laid it out is what we hope to achieve.
Okay.
Well, thank you. And I think that's a message to go out, you know, since it was brought up as a question or concern.
All right, so this was informational only, and that's already out, so.
It is, yeah, and I think we have forms, I believe we have forms at the entryway there.
One more online. Matthew, go ahead.
Yes, I'll be really quick. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And this is to piggyback off of the gentleman who was just speaking and Laura's question about, is this information available to some of those CBOs that have voiced some opposition, right? It's one thing to have it on the website, but quite specifically, has this interest form been sent to Building Healthy Communities or Leadership Council?
To the best of my knowledge, those organizations are included in our master contact database, and the expression of interest form has been distributed through that database. It's also been distributed by virtue of our TTC and PAC agendas, as well as the roundtable agendas. which are, available on our website and are distributed widely. It will also go out on our policy board agenda. And so to the best of my knowledge, the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to item 3, other items. Items from staff. Any items from staff? Okay. Item B, items from members. Well, Happy New Year, everybody, again.
I'm do, fill in a little bit of the space. I just want to express my appreciation for being able to participate with the roundtable for our district on the west side of Fresno County. The reason is because of all the initiatives that are currently underway. I don't even know how you're doing it with your staff and all, but somehow they're weaving it together and moving it, from my perspective, in the right direction. And that is the fact that we have been awarded through the Governor's Strategic Growth Council to put together a plan of action, in theory, under their transformative climate communities. So you're doing a lot of great things, and you've been a wonderful resource. And your technicians, shall we say, your engineers and whoever's doing the modeling and stuff have made themselves very available as an added resource. And so I just want to give extend my appreciation and compliments to Fresno COG and the staff.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. And yeah, our modelers don't get the love that they should. So thank you. Some of them are in the room. So thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
That's nice. Thank you. All right. Next up, public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the roundtable on items within its jurisdiction, but not on the agenda. And scheduled comments may be limited to 3 minutes. Is there anybody here for a public presentation? See Moses back there. You got your presentation, Moses. Okay. Seeing none, then we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.